Since I got just one life, know that I'ma live it. If you ask for the truth, know that I'ma give it. Eyes blurry from the sin, but my vision getting vivid. But you disrespect my king, know that my spirit getting livid. I've been wicked for too long, heart disfigured like a maul face. Thoughts trapped inside my head.
Shabbat Shalom, family. It's your boy Solemn Prophet with another Shabbat talk with Professor S. We got a full house. We got a full house tonight. Our sisters came. They came in with reckless abandonment tonight. Like they in there. Jatina, she rocking with us every day. That's why she got the banner back there. But we got two new guests tonight that's joining us. So we're gonna have a really great show. Sister Tamisha, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Tamisha. I'm currently in Florida, and I have been in the Hebrew Truth since 2017, and I'm very happy to be here.
All praises, all praises. We're glad to have you. We've been having some really good conversations over the last week or so. And
Yes.
I was excited to get you on here for sure. And
Excited to be here.
next time, hopefully the head will be with us too.
Yes, he didn't make it to the slate, but the next time he'll be able to join.
Okay, well, let's go on to the next person. Sister Hadassah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, peace everyone. I'm Hadassah Israel. New to this coalition, extremely happy to be a part of it. It seems like a great thing. I came into this truth about 2010. I thought my walk was a fast one, but it looks like I've been taking baby steps. And yeah, I'm here. I'm like an open book. So anything anyone wants to ask me, I'm open to it. And I'm very straightforward and to the point. Some people take that as rude, or some even take it as aggression. But I'm probably one of the nicest people you'd ever meet. So just throw that out there.
Oh, praise. And my sis can blow. I'm just gonna say that. I'm gonna throw that out there. My sis can blow. She can sing, y'all. She can sing. I wasn't gonna share the video without her permission, but I'm just saying. Listen, sis got pipes. Sis got some pipes.
Yeah.
But yeah. So tonight, we're gonna talk about something that is fairly new compared to a lot of the information that we've been getting. 2 new moon days. That's a little was it taboo, so to speak. When I first heard it, I heard it like 6 months ago. And it was in conversation, I think it was with brother Lucas and brother Troy Miller. And they were having a discussion about the calendar. And it came up, but the focus of that discussion wasn't on 2 new moon days specifically. So they mentioned it and then kind of casually, moved on to the next subject. And then it came up a few months ago again, but that time they had, they had more information. So I looked into the scriptures, but I couldn't understand where they were kind of getting at. But I did do a deep dive. And I want to say, well, Joe, when was that? Like, I want to say it was like right before the retreat. So like a month ago.
I think it was. Yeah, it was about
yeah. It was right before the
3 or 4 weeks ago, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, that we actually like did a deeper dive and looked at it and see if it was legit or not. So it actually it has some stuff behind it. So whether or not you leave tonight with the understanding that on 30-day months, there's 2 new moon days or not, but we're just here to share the information. And hopefully somebody is either edified or inspired to do some research of their own too as well.
And another thing just to note on that is whenever we share stuff on here, we're not telling people what to think. We're not saying, oh, you have to agree with us, you have to believe this way. It's just sharing information, just information that's come to light that we've become aware of. and we just want to share it. Don't believe anything that you hear on this show just at face value. Go on and look it up to see if it's so.
I think it's that background you got.
What's that?
You hit us with the legal disclaimer because of the background you got.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, no, I decided to. Whenever I get my new house, I'm going to build a study, and so I was like, you know what? I better use a study as a background. So
that's fine.
I have no idea how to do a background. That's another lesson for behind the scenes because I have no clue how to do that.
It's not hard. Are you
Okay.
on like a laptop right now?
Yes.
Yeah. So like at the bottom, you should have like the little video button, and then there should be
a little arrow,
like a little arrow in the top right hand corner of that video button.
Then you
Okay,
hit
video.
background.
Okay, I don't want to wait. I don't want to take your time. I'm like the old lady that you have to try to teach how to use this stuff. So we'll come back to it.
Good.
No worries. We'll get you squared away.
Mine's automatic, so don't think I believe the globe thing behind me. I don't know how that got there.
It's just automatic. That's what I figured.
Wow.
That's the disclaimer we need right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's all day over here. But yeah. So let's get right on into it. We don't want this to be too long. We already in, it's like 9:40 over here on East Coast time. So right out the gate, I know I've talked about it with some of you guys already. I don't know how deep we went. I can't recall off the top of my head. But what do you guys think, like off top, when you hear about 2 new moon days? What kind of comes to mind? Like is that like super far-fetched? So it's like crazy?
Well, me, I believe that it is what it is. That's how the Most High has it set up. But I heard someone give an explanation that was really convincing. He explained it like, if you go on vacation for the weekend for your honeymoon. Let's say your honeymoon is on Saturday, but you go on vacation from Friday to Sunday. You're celebrating your honeymoon the entire weekend. The whole weekend is your honeymoon, or he said anniversary, I think, but the actual day is the actual day. So new moon, the actual day is the actual day, but the days leading up to it, some people consider it a part of it because it's definitely not a part of the week.
Okay, that's a good, interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, that is a great way to look at it, I think. Yeah.
I also during the deep dive, I also found some commentary from various scholars that was talking about it, and it was interesting because when you read in the commentary, they're focused on a completely different aspect of the verses that we're going to get into, but not knowingly they're already like addressing the main topic that we're talking about. And it was based on history and what they were saying in their commentary. It seems like it was normal for them to treat New Moon Day like the sister described. And so if anybody is new to this whole 2 New Moon Days, we are going to find ourselves in 1 Samuel chapter 20. So let me get my
Are you gonna put it up on the screen?
Oh yeah, you already know me.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Good. Good.
Okay. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Oh, it might be. Yep, it's already over here. Look at that. Everything. Let's do this here. Oh no, that's verse 27. We'll just pull it up. Go to the beginning of the chapter.
Cheyenne. Yeah, you did.
All right. That's too big. There we go. That's better. Okay. So in 1 Samuel 20, we see here David basically is supposed to have dinner with Saul on New Moon Day. They're supposed to sit down at the feast and eat. And chapter 20 is basically the account where David doesn't show up. David goes into like hiding, and John is like his lookout, and they end up shooting the arrows and everything like that. That's kind of what was going on in this chapter. But in verse 5, we get some evidence that new moon is when David was supposed to meet with Saul. And it is very valuable because that ties into the complete understanding of the 2 new moon days. So in verse 5, it says, and I'm gonna just read it as it is for the viewers. I'm not going to change stuff up or whatever, but it says, and David said unto Jonathan, behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king at meat, but let me go that I may hide myself in the field until the 3rd day at even. Right? So he says he's going to go in hiding until the 3rd day at even, and that tomorrow is the new moon. Right? And we know he says he's not going to fail to sit with the king. He said, I should not fail to sit with the king at meat. So he's supposed to sit with the king on New Moon Day and eat meat for the feast. Because New Moon Day is also a feast and a holy day, and a day all by itself. Now, when we scroll down to verse 11, it says, and Jonathan said unto David, come and let us go out in the field. And they went out, both of them, into the field. And Jonathan said unto David, O Lord God of Israel, when I have sounded my father about tomorrow any time, or the 3rd day, and behold, if there be good toward David, and I then send not unto thee, and show it thee, the Lord do so, and much more to Jonathan. But if it please my father to do evil, then I will show it thee, and send thee away, that thou mayest go in peace, and the Lord be with thee, and he hath been with my father. So he's basically just letting them know, like, look, I'm gonna be your lookout. I'm gonna check with my pops. If he is good to go, then I'm gonna let you know, like, everything's good and you're safe. If he's not good to go and he on some other stuff, then I'm gonna warn you and let you get out, so you can, be safe and get away. And then let me see. Verse 18, it says, then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon, and thou shalt be missed, because thy seat will be empty. Right, so that's Jonathan talking to David, and we see that this new moon day is tomorrow, so that's established again. And then it says, and when thou hast stayed 3 days, then thou shalt go down quickly, and come to the place where thou didst hide thyself when the business was in hand, and shall remain by the stone Ezel. And I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof, as though I shot at a mark. So he's pretending to be shooting at a target, but he's really giving David a signal. And it says, and behold, I will send a lad, saying, go, find out the arrows. If I expressly say unto the lad, behold, the arrows are on this side of thee, take them. Then come thou, for there is peace to thee, and no hurt, as the Lord liveth. But if I say thus unto the young man, behold, the arrows are beyond thee, go thy way, for the Lord hath sent thee away. So that was his way of just giving that warning to David. If he says that the arrows are basically closer, David could come out, grab the arrows, and everything is good. But if it's beyond, then David needs to flee. And so that was David's warning. And so it says in verse, let me see. verse 24. So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, so the new moon is here, right? The king sat him down to eat meat, and the king sat upon his seat as at other times. So this was a normal occurrence, right? That's kind of important to know. Even upon a seat by the wall, and Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. So for the feast on New Moon Day, David's seat was empty. He didn't show up. But remember, David said that he wasn't going to show, and he was going to hide until the third day, right? So we got 3 days in play right here. We was in the first day, and then David's spot was empty. Verse 26, it says, nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought something hath befallen him. He is not clean. Surely he is not clean. So the first day that David didn't show up, Saul didn't really have an issue. He just thought that maybe David was unclean for whatever reason. You know, there's plenty of reasons in the Torah that tells us that, you know, we'll be unclean until evening time. So he was like, okay, he didn't show up. Okay, no worries. He should be there tomorrow. And it came to pass on the morrow, which was the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to meat, neither yesterday nor today? So now he's like, look, if he was unclean on New Moon Day yesterday, then okay, I get it. But for him not to show up today, what's the problem? Like, we got an issue. You know what I'm saying? And remember, they were supposed to sit down and eat meat on New Moon Day. Now, verse 27, and we're gonna see this. It says, and it came to pass on the morrow, which was the second day of the month. This right here was actually a mistranslation, because the word for month in Hebrew is actually New Moon Day or New Moon. Like it's a dual definition. One is new moon, and it's actually the first definition is new moon. Then the secondary definition is month. And this goes back not only in Hebrew culture and language, but to other cultures as well, including English and Latin. The word month actually originated from the word moon. So it was no coincidence that they could have made this mistake, but I won't just say that they made a mistake without, you know, proving some things. So part of what was shared, and I downloaded these pictures. Okay, so in the Aramaic Bible in plain English, verse 27 is translated as this. It says, and it was the next day of the first of the month, and the place of David was empty. And Shaul said to Jonathan his son, why did the son of Ishai not come yesterday or today for food? But the first of the month we know and understand is New Moon Day. But that's how this is, you know, this particular version was written. But what we find interesting is in these other versions, zoom in. So the New American Standard Bible translated as, but it came about the next day, the second day of the new moon, that David's place was empty again. So Saul said to his son Jonathan, why has the son of Jesse not come to the meal either yesterday or today? So this one actually translates second day of the month to actually second day of the new moon. And then the NASB 1995, and I can tell you that the NSB, the modern NSB, whatever year it is, I don't know if they have a 2022 version or whatever, but whatever the last revision of it was, also agrees with this comment, and we'll see it in a second. It says, it came about the next day, the second day of the new moon, that David's place was empty. So Saul said to Jonathan, his son, why has the son of Jesse not come to the meal either yesterday or today? And then the 1977 version, and it came about the next day, the second day of the new moon again. And then the Amplified Bible says, but on the next day, the second day of the new moon, David's place was empty again. And Saul said to Jonathan, his son, why has the son of Jesse not come to the meal either yesterday or today? So we see multiple versions, right? Multiple versions say the second day of the new moon. So you wonder, like, why would KJV, and a lot of people read the KJV, and it's also not just the KJV, it's a couple other versions that are pretty popular when people read it. Why are all of those saying the second day of the month and not actually addressing the new moon? But we'll quickly ask my cousin Google, because Google know everything, right? So let's go to 1 Samuel 20:27 to the lexicon, and let's see what the lexicon in the. I always click on that one. Oh no, that's commentaries. My bad, y'all. Here we go. We'll just go back one. Okay, so there's the lexicon. And for anybody who isn't familiar with the lexicon, it's just a really good study tool that'll kind of bridge the gap between what you're reading and the Strong's Concordance. So it'll have the English on the far left side. It'll have either the Greek or the Hebrew words right here in the next column. Then it'll have the Strong's Concordance numbers that correlates to the words in the verses. And then it'll have in the far right side, it'll have the origin. If that word is a root word, it'll just say prime root. But if it has a root word to it, then it'll have it annotated on the far right hand side. So this is the most modern NASB, and like I said, it agrees with the other two. So it says it came about the next day, the second day of the new moon. Now, when you see where it says new moon here, this is where the KJV translates as the second day of the month. But the word here is Strong's Concordance number 2320. And the definition is new moon first and then a month after that. But when you click on the Strong's Concordance number and you go in here, you're gonna get two bits of important information. First one is obviously new moon is first, and then a month is second. So when you're looking at translating it, you know, this should have at least been examined first to see if the context would have fit, which it would have, which we're going to see that this context would have fit with no issues. And that this context, based on the chapter and what was going on, it was like, it could fit, but not as likely. And so that when they were looking at this word, I wonder if they had this information or if they, you know, put forth the effort to actually look into it. But when you're dealing with the Strong's Concordance, it's a really good tool to use, but you should also chew the meat and spit out the bones, because sometimes the Strong's Concordance gets things, you know, mixed up as well. Nobody's perfect. I know some people they add to and take away from with a malice intent, and some people just do the best that they can with what they have. So if you come down, the definition again, new moon in a month, and then you see the occurrences that we have for that as well. Now here's the second piece. When you come down to the context, you have number one. So this is the context of the new moon. It says new moon equal day. It says time of new moon as a religious festival. And the first group of scriptures that is according to this context is 1 Samuel 20. And so not only is it 1 Samuel 20, it's multiple verses within 1 Samuel chapter 20. So we got verse 5, verse 18, verse 24, and the verse in question right now, verse 27, as well as verse 34. And so all of these verses have new moon day. And all of these verses use the exact same word, which is Chodesh, Strong's numbers 2320, for new moon and for month. So with that being said, it says that the first verse was verse 5. So we'll just quickly jump back and look at it just to confirm. So verse 5, the KJV reads as, David said unto Jonathan, behold, tomorrow is the new moon. So it says new moon here, right? Let me quickly confirm that. Let's pull up the lexicon. Actually, we don't need to pull up the lexicon. We saw that the word was used. So we know that the same word was used for all of these. Well, no, we can pull up the lexicon. I'm tweaking. Sorry, y'all. I'm a lack of sleep over here. I'm lack of sleep. 20 and verse 5. Lexicon. So we're gonna see what word is used for lexicon. I mean for new moon. Is this word gonna be used? Is the same word used? So we see new moon, right? And this is what the KJV, it does translate this one as new moon, but it's Kodesh 2320, the same thing. Same thing, like nothing changed. It's the same word used. All right, bet. So we see verse 5, it uses new moon. If we go back to the Strong's, what's the next verse? 18. So if we go to 18, let's see what the KJV said. Scroll down to verse 18. Then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon. So we see new moon again. Okay. So let me back this up. Let me click on that. It'll be faster to just type it. So 18 is the new moon. Same word, 2320. Go to the next one, which is 24. So let's go to 24. So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, right? So it's translated as new moon, you know, just for what you call it purposes. Let's make sure we on the same point. So 24. New moon 2320. All right, so that box gets checked. Now let's see. 27, we already covered that. So let's go to 34. Verse 34. 34 says, so Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and did eat no meat the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David because his father had done him shame. This one translates it in the KJV again as second day of the month, right? Well, let's look at that. 34. Second day of the new moon, and it's the same word. So for all of these verses, just like the Strong's Concordance identifies, and we verified it, for all of these verses, the same word is used for new moon and month, depending on the translation. But when you go and you're reading it in context, the center of everything is new moon day and why David didn't show up. So we see the KJV in verse 5 translates it as new moon, no problem. Verse 18 translates it as new moon, no problem. And then 24 translates it as new moon, no problem. But all of a sudden, when we get to 27 and 34, it translates it as second day of the month, even though the primary definition for that word is new moon, and new moon was used clearly in this chapter, everywhere in this chapter. It'd be different if new moon wasn't really the topic of discussion in the chapter, in the context, and then verse 27 said new moon, and the rest of the chapter was talking about month, like as a month, not as in around the same time. And we also get more context clues because David was supposed to sit with Saul for New Moon Day. And it said that it was the beginning of the month. And we know New Moon Day begins the month. So with all of that information that we have, plus the information that we know about New Moon Day by itself, plus the information of the translations, it's, for me, it's more so confirmed that the translation from the KJV and a lot of other translations that translates it as month, second day of the month, as opposed to second day of the new moon is incorrect. Y'all can unmute.
Okay, I would have to say that I disagree. And that's because I look at not just the thought process of him hiding for 3 days, but also the customs. So first we have the understanding that I have is that second day of new moon would actually come before the first day of the month. It cannot be new moon day 1 of the month and then second day of new moon day 2 of the month, because that would interfere with the weekly cycles. And we see that the extended portion of new moon comes at the end of the months. So that's one. If I don't explain anything well, just let me know and I'll try to say it a different way. But we also have the thought process. So if we have a scheduled, let's say a conference, and this conference is 5 days long, and I'm always there. If I miss one day, I may not be noticed as being missed. But if I miss 2 days, people will probably start to ask questions. Like, where is she? She wasn't here yesterday or today. What's going on? The same thing that happened here. And so I would think that David had that thought process, like, okay, I might not be missed as much the first day, but if I'm not there the next day, we should know something. We have that. Then we also have the verse where it says, where Saul was saying, David's not here, he must be unclean. So looking at the cleanliness laws, and the events that took place on New Moon. New Moon was one after the blowing of the trumpet. Once they acknowledged the new moon, the watchman blew the trumpet, and then they knew, okay, this is new moon. And that was at the church. People would have to go there to take their offerings, to do their sacrifices. The gates of the church were open, like it says in Ezekiel 46:1. So this was a set apart day. And typically when someone was unclean, they would have to either wait a certain amount of days, or they would have to go to the Levites and have the waters of purification to cleanse them. Well, David didn't have time to do any of that. In the first day, Saul said, David must be unclean. So if we're looking at new moon as something that you cannot participate in because you're unclean, then the next day, it should have been the same type of thought process going on. But instead, it's like, this is the second day of the month, because 2 days of new moon would have to come before the beginning of the month, right? Before day 1 of the month. And he's not worried about him being unclean, because you can come to dinner, you can come to regular dinner if you're unclean, but you cannot come to new moon or do certain, things while you're unclean. So that right there kind of stood out to me. And then there was something else. Let me think. Well, it left me, but those two, I think, are very important when thinking about this. And I think a lot of people automatically assume, like I've heard some people say new moon is 3 days, which it has never been. If we look at all the history of calendars and new moons and how many days in a month, new moon has never been 3 days, but he chose 3 days. He chose an extended, period of time. So I think with the concordance saying it can mean new moon as well as month, I think it says exactly what it's saying, that new moon was the first day of the month. They were eating, and the second day of the month, he was absent as well. But whether or not he was clean or not wasn't a question. It was, hey, he's not here. Why is he not here? I thought he was unclean the first day, but what's the excuse for this day?
Okay.
So there's a new moon at the end of the month.
The new moon cycle, so the last week of the month is the very end of the crescent, and it's declining. And then there's a stage where it goes empty to first light, and that stage could be 2 days. It could be 1 day that you don't see any moon in the sky, or it could be 2 days that you don't see any moon in the sky, giving us the 29th and the 30th days of the month. Sometimes it could only be 29 days of the month. But that, I believe, happens before the first day of the month is acknowledged, which is
Another new moon day.
sure.
Which would,
It doesn't matter. I'm sorry.
which would be another new moon day on the first of the month.
Right. Well, the way I word it, for me, you have the new moon phase, and then you have the day of the new moon, the day that is actually acknowledged as new moon. The trumpets will be blown. The people would, come out and do their sacrifices, and that would be the first day of the actual month, the actual first day of the month. The days before that, between the Sabbath and the new moon, those would be the days that we would be talking about, prior to the actual day of new moon.
Well, I mean, because he said, okay, because you said at the end of the month, around the 29th, 30th would be a new moon. And then you said the original new moon is on the first day of the month. So then that would explain the 3 days that he's talking about. No, would he was supposed to meet the first day, which was the new moon, which will probably be the end of the month, which explain why in the Bible it says the first of the month instead of new moon, because they both say the same thing. So if it was at the end of the month, which was the 29th, 30th, which is 2 days, and then a new moon again on the first of the month, which will be the third day, right?
No, that's not what I'm trying to say. So, okay, new moon, like it says, is the beginning of your month. So that's day 1. But the cycle, the moon cycle, the phase before you acknowledge new moon day, the moon is in a blank state. So I call that new moon. It's blank, you can't see it. But the day that you actually keep new moon would come after that. So the first day of the month, and I'm not great at explaining, I'm sorry. But the first day of the month is the new moon. That's new moon day.
I get what you're trying to say, sis. I was just giving you.
Can you explain it better to me?
Yeah, she's saying basically that New moon day doesn't come until you have the first sliver of light, like Enoch describes.
Which
That-
is the first of the month.
which is the first of the month. And then the last day of the month is a blank moon on a 29-day month. But on a 30-day month, you have another day where it's in between. So it's in between that last day of what the month would normally be and new moon day to start the next month. It's an additional day. Like the WLC calendar, they keep that as a standard work day. Like they don't look at it as new moon day or a feast day. They just call it a regular work day. They call it a transition day or inter calendrical day is what they do. But from what I understand in the scriptures, based on the translations and all the information, plus I'm gonna quickly go into some commentary as well. That day was also kept as new moon day. But let me
What do you do on New Moon Day?
let me quickly jump to this real quick, and then we can answer that question. 1 second. That's what, because I told you I was going to share some commentary as well. And where is it at? Okay, so this one right here, this was Jameson Fausset Brown Bible Commentary. It says, on the morrow, which was the second day of the month, the time of the moon's appearance being uncertain, whether at midday, in evening, or at midnight, the festival was extended over 2 days. Custom, not the law, had introduced this. And then it says, right here, Matthew Pools, it says, which was the second day of the month, or on the morrow of the new moon being the second day, either of the 3 days appointed, 1 Samuel 5:19, or of a feast. And then it says, of the month Saul said unto Jonathan, David's friend, and best knew his mind and his ways. Because they were worried about ceremonial uncleanness. Where was that? Right, so it says David's continued absence on the second day of the feast awoke Saul's suspicion, and he asked his son, who was sitting by him, what was the reason of his friend's absence, aware that no accident connected with ceremonial defilement would keep him away 2 following days. This one over here. Let me see. Different. Hey Joe, you want to answer Tina's question?
Yeah. So on New Moon Day, it's we've got Amos 8:5 and Ezekiel 46:1, talking about that it's a worship day. It's obviously a separate worship day from Sabbath, according to Ezekiel 46. However, it is a worship day. And in Amos 8:5, I think it is, it says, it talks about not buying and selling on that day. Essentially on new moon, it's a it's like a Sabbath, but not exactly. It's the beginning of the month. So personally, what I do on that day, and from my extended study of how creation was and all that, I take the new moon day. I don't go buying and selling. I don't go shopping or anything like that. I take the day to plan what I'm going to do for the rest of the month, what my goals are for the month, set some goals, and put together what would need to be done to achieve them, and then I study scripture. You blow the shofar on new moon, announcing the beginning of the month. Through the rest of the week after that, I start working toward achieving those goals that I set on the new moon day.
Do I need to get one of them blow things?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Is it for only men?
What's that?
Is it for men only to blow the horn?
It doesn't specify really. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with women blowing the shofar.
See, because my thing, I need to, because I'm a woman, no offense, I want to learn all of the Bible, but I'm really more concerned. I don't want to sound like that, but I really need to know what my part is. I need to know what the rules is for me. And it seems, I mean, I know all the 10 Commandments is for me, but I mean, like, majority of this book is talking to men. Like, they're instructing the men to do certain stuff, and they're keeping their house in order. Well, I don't have a man here, so what's my part to play? Or am I that's the part I need to know. I just need to know.
Well, I would say, as a woman, okay, from my understanding, the shofar, the trumpet, was blown by the Levites. The men Levites blew the horns. We're instructed though to blow those horns. If and what I see with Deborah in Kings is that when there was not a man that was able to do it, God would use a woman. We live in times where you and I would never exist in this Bible, because a woman was always under the umbrella of a man. When a baby girl was born, she was under her father's care until he handed her off to her husband, and then the husband took care of her. If the husband died, then the brother, if they didn't have any children, the brother would be that umbrella over her. If the man divorced her, she would go back to her father. If her husband died and she became a widow of old age, then she was looked after behind the church. So single women didn't exist the way they do now. I personally want to get one. I have boys who I would have them blow it, but if they're not here, I definitely would, because that's what we were instructed to do. And I think it's bigger than just making a sound, but it's showing our presence, showing our obedience to the Most High. So it's a lot of things that we women these days have to do that we normally wouldn't have to do. And like I like to explain to some brothers when they try to get me to be submissive and they're not my husband. I'm just being real. Is the order is God, then man. You can't see my hands. The umbrella of a man, and then woman, and then child. So without that man being there, the Most High is our direct covering. It's our direct head over us. So we have to fill the shoes sometimes of that man. We have to be the provider for our household. We have to guide our children and train our men, our boys, and we have to do things that we normally wouldn't have to do. So I can't prove it in scripture, aside from Deborah, who was a judge. She led an army and she had a husband, and there were other men around. But with the Most High using her in that sense, I cannot say that I believe it's against the book for us to blow one. But if there's a man present, I would hand it over to him and say, "Hey, you blow this."
Yeah, I would say what she said is very, very is on point, because you know the situations that we have right now, because of the how fallen we are from where we're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Our society is so far divorced from what we're supposed to be that we're kind of in a undefined territory, let's say, because the Hebrew society was never like this.
You got this, this westernized culture.
Yeah, yeah.
From an easternized perspective.
It just wasn't like this. So we're kind of in undefined territory, you know. And also, like she said, whenever there's not men in your immediate vicinity that are willing to step up and do what needs to be done, then who does it fall onto next? You know, of course, it's going to fall on the women, right? So, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman doing that if she's by herself, without fellowship, without elders or a leader. You know, I don't think there's any problem with that. Just because we want to follow the Most High and His commandments, what He says to do, and if but we're in a broken system, right? We're in a broken system. It's not the way it's supposed to be right now. So we have to do the best we can with what we have at our disposal, you know.
Yeah. Another thing to also consider is, back in biblical times, everybody in that area, everybody in that household was under the Torah. They were under the law, right? So they was observing the law, keeping the law. And now you'd be lucky if if somebody is a fellow Torah keeper that you're married to. Like a lot of us, right? Our spouses either don't believe, they may come from Christianity, and we're still trying to get them over to the truth with us. You know what I'm saying? So when you add that caveat to it too, which is like, it's a baby of what y'all saying. We so far removed and we over here. But when you're talking about within the confines of the household and the structure, as a sister, you might be keeping the Torah correctly and everything like that, but your husband might still be in the world, or your husband might still be in religion. And so he's not keeping the Torah. And when you find yourself in that type of situation, you're adhering to standards that's not even on his radar, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky situation to be in, because you want to follow the scripture and let him lead you and let him be your head. But if his guidance and his counsel isn't righteous and it's not coming from the Most High, then you're forced to take that upon yourself to make certain decisions for yourself.
Now, wasn't that in
I was
Timothy?
just about to ask that, because the Bible said we're supposed to submit to the husband, and they're, in charge, and they're supposed to lead the household. So, like, if they're in the world and we're in Torah and they decide to, just do church stuff, go on Sundays, whatever, and we refuse, then I feel right then, even though we're right, we are sinning, I feel like, because we're going against because he said that we're supposed to submit to the husband. So that's where I had an issue. That's why I'm sitting here with me and my daughter right now, because I just had an issue with the submitting of the husband part.
Well, my question to you would be, who do you submit to first? God or man? So if you submit to God first, then he's going to protect you from any repercussions that could come from that husband for not submitting to him. I think a compromise is always good, but nothing that any man can say will ever supersede what God says.
Mm-hmm. Which is essentially what the RCC and the fake Jews are saying now. They're basically, it says in the Talmud and it says in the catechism, the Catholic catechisms, that if a priest says something, even if it's directly against what the scripture says, you're supposed to do it, right? Or if the rabbi says something, you're supposed to do it, even if it's against the Torah, right? And no, that's not actually the case. You should submit to a husband in as much as his requests and his requirements are in alignment with the Torah. If they're an obvious breach of the Torah, right, then no, you shouldn't. You should respectfully be like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And we can look at what was the lady's name that was married to I'm so bad with names. The one that David was about to kill. He was about to kill every male that pisses against the wall. That's what the book says. Who was that? I'm bad with names. No. Y'all know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, Nabal.
Nabal, right.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at Nabal's wife, her husband would have wanted her to go along with what he was doing. He had already sent David's men away. He had already made that call, but she went against what he said because she was moving in righteousness, and her household was rewarded because of that. So that's just another example of, you don't always follow. If you see that man is about to lead y'all to the ditch, then you call on the Most High and follow the Most High with, move in righteousness.
Absolutely. Especially because we in a different time. You got to understand, and that was a great example, but you got to understand, back in those days, typically the men led their households righteously because they kept the Torah. It was embedded in them, right? It's a part of the culture. And so now it's not a part of the culture. So a lot of us are coming from other religions or atheism or whatever into the truth. And now we're learning everything and trying to keep the Torah as best we can. It hasn't been already instilled in us from a young man, right? So when you see men trying to keep the Torah, some of it might just be that they're stumbling through because they're just learning. And then some of it might just be that they're just being wicked. So also as the woman in that type of situation where you're submitting to your husband, also use discernment and see, is my husband just in error? He's lost and he's trying to find himself. He's trying to lead us correctly. He just has the wrong understanding. Or is he maliciously just going against the Torah because for whatever reason he comes up with, and he's just being rebellious and lawless? And then you got to make that judgment call as well too. Because I know I've seen sisters, they've been married to a brother in the truth, but he's trying to figure itself out. And they gave them the leeway, so to speak, because they brought him in, right? So they had the knowledge already, and he was just starting out, And so they let him lead to an extent to where it wasn't like nothing detrimental to them, but they let him figure it out, and they let him lead and let him be the man. And so once he actually got an understanding of everything, it kind of like strengthened their whole relationship bond, because he realized that he wasn't always, you know, the head with the understanding, but they, you know, they wasn't cutting him off at the knees every time he was, you know, faced with a decision and trying to figure out what the scriptures actually said about it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's Timothy. I could be mistaken, where it's talking about being married to unbelievers, right? And I think it's Timothy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it breaks down how to deal with that a little bit better, like if you're married to an unbeliever, because you know, it shouldn't be something that necessarily has to dissolve the marriage, right? But at the same time, you don't want to be unevenly yoked, you know, because if you're unevenly yoked, if you like the scripture says, don't yoke an ox and a donkey together, right? Because they're not going to go at the same pace, and one of them is going to actually be dragging the other one behind, right? Holding them back. And then it's just going to make even more work for the other one, you know? So you don't want that. But at the same time, being in the situations that we are because of the way society is and the broken system that we live in, we just have to use discernment and you know, ask for guidance. You know what I'm saying? Pray for guidance, because it can be very difficult. I'm well aware how difficult it can be at times. You know, there's also a certain level of grace and mercy that needs to be extended, but it, you know, you have to draw a line in the sand too. You know what I'm saying?
And to reel it back into the topic, we said all of that to say this. Yes, sister, you can blow the trumpet. On New Moon Day. Yeah, we hit rants and different sidebar conversations on here a lot, but yeah, to reel it back in, you can blow the trumpet. And if you got any questions, we can shoot you some scriptures and stuff too, like that. I think it's in Timothy, the one about being married to an unbeliever. But Joel, what you thinking about regarding the 2 new moon days?
You know, it was about a little over a year ago now, I think, maybe 2, that I had first heard the idea from Troy Miller, and I was like, huh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. At the time I just didn't really have the time. I mean, I guess I could have made the time, and I probably should have, but I didn't really have the time to just go and do a deep study on it. So I put it on the back burner, and I just said, well, just to be on the safe side, I'm just not going to work on the 30th day either, you know? And I just got used to that and incorporated that into the way I was doing the calendar. And it just never really, after incorporating that and just taking the 30th day off too, if there was a 30th day of the month, it just became so second nature that I didn't even feel the need to go back and study it. I was just like, oh, yeah, I don't like, if there's a 30th day, I get an extra day off, you know? So whenever you brought up the subject, I was like, oh man, yeah, I never actually studied that out. I just started going with it. So my thoughts would be, yeah, it makes total sense to me. It makes total sense to me because you've got the moon in the certain phase, and when it's transitioning there, obviously the 30th day of the month is not the first day of the month. The first day of the month is the first day of the month, right? So you've got the new moon day But would you have considered the other day? Would they have considered the other day a new moon day as well? It seems that way.
And that was with the code commentary piece. There was another commentary where it says, when the beginning of the month was judged by the appearance of the moon, and there was a difficulty about that, what day it appeared on, 2 days were kept for it. And it's Abarbinel. So Aberbinel says it is clear for it that 2 days were kept in this month. But if this was not the case, since the remainder of peace offerings might be eaten the next day, Leviticus 7:16, Saul and his guests might meet on the second day for that purpose, that David's place was empty. And this was commentary on 1 Samuel 20 and 27.
Yeah, so Troy Miller explained it this way. He said that he just after the Sabbath, after the last Sabbath of the month, he just counts that as new moon day. And if he sees the crescent, then great. If he doesn't, then he counts another new moon day, and then he says, okay, now this was the first day of the month.
When you first heard it from Troy, did he mention 1 Samuel at all? Or was it just that was just how he was rocking with it, kind of like you?
That's
like, I'm just off and get an extra day, like.
I'm sure he had the material on it. It was just when he came to that conference with Lucas, I just picked his brain about a whole bunch of different topics, and we didn't get too deep into it, and he wasn't going to be there that long, so I was just moving as fast as I could to cover as much. I figured quantity over quality, I guess, at the time.
I got you. That's how I feel whenever we around Lucas, because I don't see him often.
Yeah. You don't see him much, so you want to cover as many topics as possible rather than just do a really deep dive into one particular topic,
What about you, sis? Tamisha, I see you unmuted your mic.
I wanted to say, and I wanted us to consider, I'm starting to really have this thing where I'm want to go like to a raw or vegan diet, right? And what I found leading up into Passover, having done that for, I don't know, a month leading up to it, was that when it was time to have a feast, it really felt like a feast. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So like when you have these introductions of new moon or feast days, in order for them to really feel like a feast day. And I think that, we're learning so much now when it comes to diet and certain things that maybe that was the only time they really had that cooked food. And maybe we should be eating more raw, vegan, alkaline regularly. And then when it's a feast day, you have this cooked meat and special, and then it just feels special.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the people and to just say, let's consider it.
Absolutely wonderful, because I was actually recently looking into that as well. Not too long ago, I went to a health retreat with my dad down in Florida, and it was a week long. You get there and you stay a week, and they provide all the food for you, but it was all raw fruits and vegetables, nothing cooked, nothing processed, and that's essentially how the diet would have mostly been back then.
I would think so.
In an agricultural society, your diet's gonna mostly be this raw, plain stuff, and then on a feast day, you're gonna be like, now we're going all out,
And it honestly just was. I mean, it was the best. Because it was like the fresh cooked bread and the lamb and it was just, it felt like a feast.
Yeah, because if you don't eat meat for 2 or 3 weeks, and then someone gives you a nice delicious lamb chop or something, you're just like,
right. I mean, it was just so, to throw that in to the pot of conversation, that these feasts were special because they were feasts, you know what I mean? And that we really need to consider how we're eating on a regular basis. and
Yeah,
know,
the
just health
extravagant
wise.
meals, the extravagant meals should be reserved for a particular.
Correct. And we're used to eating like that every night, on a Wednesday, on a Tuesday, for no reason. After work, you're trying to cook a whole, thing. And we're used to eating like that all the time, these hot meat type of meals. And so when you have a feast day right after you ate fried chicken the day before, is it really going to feel like a feast, or
You're right. Yeah,
something
yeah. I know.
special? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
It
if
might
we
be-
reserve the
more.
feast or these hot cooked prepared meals for those feast days, they're really going to feel like you're really going to be looking forward to new moon, to these different feast day celebrations, and they're really going to just add that extra element of, and then not only that, but you're improving your health at the same time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to add that into the conversation.
Excellent.
I think that's awesome. I think that I'm not against it at all. I do want to bring something to your attention though. Like when they left out of the wilderness, for the first, no, it was the third Sabbath that they kept. So that second week of the second month, they cooked every day. The manna, like the instructions for the 6th day was get the manna and cook what you're gonna cook, boil what you're gonna boil, and prepare what you were gonna prepare. And then they also had those 2 incidents where they had the quail every day for 6
But that's
days.
because the people were murmuring and complaining, because that's what
the-
they were used to in Egypt. It wasn't necessarily what the Most High wanted to provide them, but he did it because the people were complaining, because they came from that lifestyle out of Egypt. And we got to remember, we're in Egypt.
Right.
And the
Well,
lifestyle that we've been given and that we've been introduced to is not necessarily what he wants for us. It's just what we're used to.
well, we
Now
also,
bread actually was quite a.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about bread. I mean, I know, I'm not really speaking about bread. I was really more so targeting the meat.
Yeah.
And I would eat meat all my
mostly
life.
meat-
I'm not
meat was
a
something that
vegan
was,
talking to you,
meat
saying
was
like, let's
something
all
that
be
was
vegan,
a special occasion thing, like on a
Right.
wedding feast, or when your son comes home, or or you get some strangers come up and you want to really impress them, or a feast day or something, an actual special occasion. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna have we'll just eat some more meat tonight, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they ate bread every day, some sort of homemade, leavened or unleavened bread. I think that was a part of their regular diet, but I don't know. It was just something to consider.
Well, with the manna, they were making bread out of the manna. So yeah, but like meat, they weren't having that all the time. And then when they murmured, Most High sent them quail, because that's what they were always complaining. Oh, we used to eat at the flesh pots all the time. You know what I'm saying?
We could have stayed in Egypt for this. You brought us out here to starve us. You know what I mean? And
Well,
not only
and then
that, but
another thing is too, whenever you stop eating meat, you just quit eating meat, and you just because I've done that multiple times, where I'd go like 21 days without eating only raw, and the first several days of that, your stomach can be full to where you can't stuff another thing in your mouth, but you will not feel full. You will still
right,
feel
because
hungry.
that feeling of satisfaction is not
You're
there.
so used to eating meat, you could eat a gigantic salad and be gorged on salad, and you still feel like you're not satisfied, like you're hungry.
But after a couple of days, it does go away.
Yeah.
And
After
I
several
think that
days, it goes away.
if we're preparing to go back in the wilderness again, right? If that's where we're heading, we should prepare ourselves physically also in this way, because you're not going to be able to eat the way that you're used to eating right now. So why not have your body prepared for that?
Oh, and the detoxing, detoxing is so important, because it's not fun to detox, and if you got to detox everything at one time, it could,
Right. Do that process while you have the option, and you can, it's something just to, as you're preparing for the things that are coming in the near future, I just want you to sit with that, pray about it, think about it, consider it. Like he said, detox. I'm big into that too. We're about to do a 30-day detox where, you just need to prepare mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. And that has a lot to do with food as well.
What wasn't that with the bitter herbs, sis, you was telling me?
Yes, it's the one that I chose was the 3 bitter herbs from Yaki Awaken, who is a Hebrew as well.
Detoxing also cleans the gut, and that's where our immunity starts.
Yeah.
So that helps boost immunity, especially now with monkeypox, which I understand you can get from just bumping into someone. So detoxing is very important right now.
It's always good to have a.
So how do you detox?
You can detox in multiple different ways. Just by not consuming something, you're going to start detoxing from it. Like when I went on that health retreat, the second day I was there, I had the worst headache I've ever had, and it lasted for 3 days straight.
That was probably for lack of sugar. I had that once
that's what they told me. They said,
yeah,
they said
was
it's probably
horrible.
not eating sugar. You eat a lot of sugar. I was like, not a lot, but I did.
Yes,
and it's like, yeah. And then they said, you drink a lot of coffee. I was like, yeah. And they said, oh, that might also do it. Caffeine withdrawal.
Listen, look, this brother right here, Professor S, this brother, listen, if you were to see what he normally eats on a daily basis, okay,
you'd be like, man,
look, if he gets a 3-day headache, I would probably have a 3-month headache. Look, look, other than like natural sugars, like he don't eat like I do. Like I eat horrible. Like my diet is horrible, like horrible. So if you had a 3-day headache from sugar, it probably was coffee too, but sugar too was a part of it. And you don't really consume that much sugar like that. Like you don't really eat like chips and all of like we went to when we went for Passover, right? So we go to what was this store? It wasn't
Kroger.
It was Kroger's, yeah. So we in Kroger's and I'm just like, we gotta do what? For what? And he's like, all right, let's go to the aisle. So we go to an aisle and he's like, have you tried some of these? And he'll pull up like this random bag of something I've never heard of in my entire life. And he's like, these are great, man. He's like, what about these over here? And everything is just healthy. And I'm like, I'm in health overload. I was like, bro, where is the Flaming Hots? Where's the?
I mean, like, you want some kale chips, man?
I'm like, nah. So if you getting headaches, listen, I go to that retreat, boy. They might have to call an ambulance for me.
And that's what I'm saying. Imagine you going through those withdrawals when everything is in chaos and you can't, you know what I mean? You do it while you have the option. You can control your environment and you can deal with it.
And you can splurge occasionally if you're like, oh man, this is just too bad. I gotta eat something, You just be like, all right, here you go.
While it's still optional, because there'll come a point in time where you don't want to be going through that and whatever else is going on at the same time. So like years ago, I was literally like a sugar addict. Okay. And I had stopped sugar and I said, I'm going to get control of this. And I stopped it completely for, I don't know, like 6 months. I made sure everything I had was no sugar, reduced sugar, low sugar, because you can't get rid of it and everything. And I wasn't doing anything like raw vegan at this time. This was many, many years ago. And it was a office party and they had like a little ice cream cake. And I said, oh, it's been like 6 months or whatever. I can have a little sliver. When I said like a little sliver, like this big was the piece of cake. I went home. I had a migraine headache. I had to turn all the lights out. I couldn't do anything. I was a whole mess. Like, you don't want to go through that. Just do it while you can. That's what I'm saying. Because your body's going to go through all kinds of changes and abnormalities, and you're going to have all kinds of things that you didn't even know about, anxieties and cravings that because we have parasites in our bodies, and they have control over you, and you're really not aware of it. But take something away from it and see what happens. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's going to rear its ugly head.
I'll tell you something. Going on that retreat, I didn't have a drop of coffee the whole time, no caffeine, nothing. And when I got back from the retreat, it was probably like 3 or 4 days after I got, no, I might have gone about a week after returning from the retreat. And then one morning it wasn't even that I felt like I needed the coffee. I just I wanted to taste coffee. And now I used to drink so much coffee. Like I'd get these super high caffeine triple shots, pound 4 of those in the morning and drink 1 every hour for the rest of the day. That's how much I used to drink. And so when I got back from the retreat, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a little bit. I just want to taste it. And I filled up the cup with half of it was decaf. I put half decaf and then filled it the rest of the way with regular coffee, put no sugar in it whatsoever. And halfway through drinking that cup, I had the jitters and I was like, my teeth were chattering. I couldn't stop shaking. I was like,
That's like pre-workout, wasn't it?
I know, dude. And it was crazy. I mean, just half a cup of regular coffee and half decaf, and I was like, I don't know how I drank this stuff before.
Right.
It felt horrible. Like my mind was all over the place. I felt like I was high or something. You know what I mean? And but see what's happened is that when people drink this stuff and consume this stuff on a regular basis, they become so accustomed to it that they don't even realize that that's the way they always feel because they're so used to it. So, but to answer your question, Jatina, to detox, I mean, you can detox simply by cutting something out of your diet. You can also detox through fasting. Fasting is a very great way to detox. You can get supplements, detox supplements. You can drink tea. You can go to the health food store and get a colon cleanse, like a 14-day colon cleanse or something. Really, really.
I've been trying to fast. Fast is complicated. I'm trying though.
All right.
Daniel fast. Try
breakfast. I could skip lunch, but by about 7, 8 o'clock, I'm hungry. I'm about starving.
Try intermittent fasting. That's intermittent. How? That's a tongue-tied thing. Say that 3 times real fast. But try intermittent fasting. That's well, you decide a couple hours a day. This is going to be my window to eat. So if you want to get up, and if you find yourself hungrier in the morning, then allow yourself to eat between like 6 a.m. and noon. And then after that, you don't eat again until 6 a.m. Maybe you can push fluids, which includes tea, water, or juices that are low in sugar. And then you don't eat any solid food again until that 6 a.m. to 12 noon window. But allow yourself a 4 to 6 hour window to just eat what, it's healthy, but just eat what you want within that 4 to 6 hour window. And then you don't eat again until your window comes.
Oh, I might be able to do that. Because I can make it till I could wake up in the morning and I'll be good till about maybe 7 or 8 in the evening. Then it's like, okay, I gotta get something. I don't care what.
Now that's actually the worst time to eat, because you wanna go to bed on an empty stomach.
Not necessarily, Joel. If she can eat and then stay up 2 hours before she goes to bed, you shouldn't lay down with food in the gut.
Yeah.
But, right. At least 3 hours before you lay down.
Most foods take 3 to 4 hours. Some take 6 hours to get out of the stomach.
Oh, absolutely. I understand, but you don't want it in the stomach when you're laying down. Like if it's processed and out of the stomach. So 2 to 3 hours before you lay down, eat. I mean, the more time between you eat and lay down, the better. And with the intermittent fasting, if you can't do a 4 hour window or a 6 hour window, start with 10 hours. And then a week after that, chop it down to 8 hours. And then a week after that, chop it down to 6 hours. because you'll get there.
Absolutely. And
I'm trying.
And if 8 o'clock is your window, include like maybe make yourself eat between the hours of noon and 8 o'clock, and then not again the next day until noon or afternoon, and then to 8 o'clock again. You don't have to suffer in it. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Kind of Google intermittent fasting, and then it'll give you an idea like how to start and where to start. It's not that. And then I wanted to add a
with my wife too. She does it all the time.
Yeah. And then I wanted to add a small tidbit about sugar. If I don't know if you guys know that there were some kind of controversial arguments about the medical board making sugar a drug, because sugar is more addictive than cocaine, as what they found in studies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sugar, chocolate, chips.
I promise you it is. Addictive.
Hey, Kavira,
I'm sorry.
hey, I disagree with you.
Look at you. Look at you.
I'm just kidding. But while you got your mic unmuted, did you want to share any thoughts on the 2 new moon days? I want to give everybody a chance to share their thoughts.
Who you were asking me, myself?
Yes.
I
know you just getting into the calendar.
Right. I'm gonna say I don't have any input right now. I am truly, honestly a sponge. So I'm absorbing everything right now because I have to learn this new moon thing. It's right now. It's very foreign to me.
Me and Sis had a conversation during the retreat a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, "What? Oh, we gotta get into this." Like when we were walking over to get your food, but anybody else? No. Okay. Because it's about to be 11 o'clock over here. I appreciate everybody for coming on to the show. Joe, you got something? You muted right now.
I was muted?
Well, I saw you move.
No, I didn't realize it was that late.
Yeah, it's late. This was supposed to be a quick one, but you know.
Oh, we had so many great side topics to get off on.
That's true as well. But you guys are all welcome to come on the show. We do this every week. So, Salakia, for the last 2 weeks, we've been doing all of the retreats and travel and stuff like that, so we haven't been able to do it. But typically, we try to do it every week. Whether it just be a group of us like this or just me and Joe. I haven't had to do one by myself yet, so appreciate you.
Been on like pretty much every one since.
Yeah, you've been on every one, so yeah.
I gotta break up the me and Joe thing. I got to be squeezed in there. Like, no, y'all can't no me and Joe.
Since you right there, ever since you started, you know what I'm saying? You've been on them. You know what I mean? That's why you got the background. You know what I'm saying? If you want a Shabbat Talk background, get with us, but you got to be kind of consistent. I'm not saying you got to be on it every week, but I shoot it to you. I send it to you. You're gonna come. How you
got to be bona fide to get one of them.
But yeah, if nobody got nothing else, man, we'll wrap this one up. And like I said, I appreciate y'all for coming out. And like we said, like, don't take anything we say on this show. Don't take our word for it. Absolutely go and research. Do your own research. I am the biggest advocate for independent study probably ever get. I don't believe in taking anybody's word for it. And sometimes I get like really good information right off the bat, and it sounds good when you hear it, but you still gotta research it. You still gotta look into it.
Yeah, you gotta work out your own salvation with fear and trembling.
So be it.
And I hope nobody thought I don't think that there are 2 new moon days. I absolutely do. I just don't think 1 Samuel and 20 is a good one to try to use to prove.
Yeah. And not everybody will agree, you know, and that's fine. That's what iron sharpening iron is. We all have our own perspectives and understandings and how the scriptures speak to us and what information we are privy to. Sometimes, and this is what I've noticed. And I'll say this, and then we can leave. I'm not trying to hold y'all hostage. But one thing I've noticed about truth is that truth stands alone on itself, and it doesn't need anything to support it, because it's by itself, it's good. And I've seen on multiple different topics, biblical topics and just topics in life in general, where 2 people can be on opposite sides of an understanding, and they're going through whatever the Most High sends them through, right? So one person might go forward and take a right and a left through all of these different historical documents and books and stuff, maybe some scripture, but, you know, and then the other person might be solely scripture. Then you might have a separate person that doesn't even read history or scripture and through life lessons, and we all come to the same understanding, because truth by itself doesn't need anything. And so that's what I find is important. If you find yourself in disagreement with someone, it may not be that you're right and they're wrong, or they're right and you're wrong. It may just be that both of you guys are on a journey to get to what that truth is. And you might take a couple left turns at Albuquerque to get there, and they might go straight there. Like I was, when I was talking to Hadassah a couple days ago, and we were talking about the calendar, and I was saying, like, it took me 2 years to get to have the understanding of the lunisolar. It wasn't right away. And then some people that I've had the pleasure of speaking to in the last few months, they've adopted the calendar much faster than I did. They were a couple months into it, right? It took me a year to find it, and then I couldn't reconcile the 13th month unless I found it in scripture. So it took me another year on top of that to see that. So when I look at it, like, I was on my journey. I had made a couple left turns at Albuquerque and a couple more right turns over 2 years, but I eventually got to the Creator's calendar, right? And so someone else might have, you know, only had to make one left turn and go straight there with, you know, finding it in a few months, which is great. All praises to the Most High. But both journeys still got to the same destination in regards to the calendar. But that's not the only,
because everyone's at a different
as an example.
place.
So absolutely do your own research, study on everything, and don't be, you know, don't feel some kind of way if somebody has a different of opinion than you do. You might be learning from them, they might be learning from you. You know, once the matter is established, then, you know, you just take it and learn from it. I've learned more so in my walk with the Most High from things that I've done wrong, rather than the things that I got the correct understanding the first time. So yeah, it's okay. But with that being said, you guys be safe. Oh, I always forget this, bro. Like every time, don't I?
Oh yeah, yeah. Always like the video,
and share, and subscribe. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this video, comment down below.
And throw your opinions in the comments.
Yeah. When I go back and edit this, it's gonna be. I'm probably gonna put it in there anyway, even though I'm not saying it. So we're just gonna be having random conversations. Like Tamisha's gonna be like, "Yo, you know, I'm Tamisha," and then you're just gonna have like, share, subscribe popping right underneath her chin, just chilling. But yeah, so definitely do that. If you have any questions, concerns, if you want us to talk about certain topics, definitely leave a comment below. What's your understanding on New Moon Day? What's your understanding on 2 New Moon Days? What's your understanding on the Creator's calendars as a whole? Go ahead and drop a comment, and we'll definitely check it out and get back to you. Well, shalom, family. Shabbat shalom. Thank you for coming. I love y'all.
Shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Stand it like a crawl space. Let's get one thing straight. I need y'all to understand. Ain't no need to draw a line like Christ. I'ma write it in the sand. I used to wanna be the best, and now all I want is glory, sweat, and blood up on the mic. And